Hello, everyone. This is Gail Estella. I've gone from being a victim to a victor, now an advocate against domestic violence. I would like to welcome everyone to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. And with me today is my special guest, Christopher Barnes, who is a reformed abuser. And I'm going to allow him to tell you a little bit about himself.
Good afternoon or good day, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. My name is Christopher Barnes, and I am an ex-abuser. I am here solely for the purpose of speaking out against domestic violence, but to help males in a domestic violence situation to come out. Because as long as we're helping females, we are doing our job. But until you save the males, the problem can never go away.
Wow, that's good. The problem can never go away. So our topic today is let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. And I spoke with you last week, and I told you I wanted to be candid on how I was feeling. And I had to ask God to allow me not to be judgmental because of the fact that I am or I was in an abusive relationship, and I am a survivor from domestic violence. And I began to have the tendency to judge men that were or that are abusers because of what I've gone through. So I had to ask God to come in and clean my heart to make this to make this a successful interview on today. So I would like to say welcome and thank you for agreeing to do this, and thank you for being back for a second time, because so many people talked about the first one. So I thought that we should have you back again, and we can do this. And we're going to delve a little deeper this time.
Let's go.
Okay, I'm ready. So how long have you been a survivor, or do you consider yourself a survivor?
Well, do I consider myself a survivor? I guess technically I am. But because I was the abuser, I wasn't the one that was in danger. I was the one that posed the danger on other people. So I guess in the sense of being an ex-abuser, yes, I'm a survivor. Mm-hmm. But again, I never thought about it as a question.
Yeah, because you said earlier, as long as men are still abusing, the cycle still goes on.
The cycle still goes on. Because if I save you, then your abuser is going to go find another victim. But if I save him, then that process stops.
Okay. And so you are one of the ones that the process stops with you.
Stop with me.
So that constitutes you as a survivor.
Okay.
I think so.
I'm not disagreeing.
Okay. So we say reformed abuser. What constitutes you to be a reformed abuser?
Well, it's been 24 years since I inflicted, so that constitutes me. The fact that I advocate for the cause from the standpoint of the male ex-abuser, the fact that I produce or help produce several podcasts on the topic, and I'm just out here in the community moving forth, Excuse me. One thing that I always say is it's the duty of the civilized to civilize the uncivilized. And now that I'm civilized, it's my civic duty to go out and reach the people that need to be reached.
Okay, I remember from our first podcast, you spoke about the different types of counseling that you've gone through as well. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I went through anger management, court appointed. I went through several different levels of therapy, several different therapists. And the thing that I realized with that is anger management. So at the time, domestic violence wasn't the term. It was labeled simple assault or just assault. And so when you get to court-appointed anger management, there's no why you here. It's just lectures. And there's no one-size-fits-all treatment. Mm-hmm. Everybody's there. The person beside me was there for one different thing. The person on the other side of me was there for one different thing. I'm here for domestic violence, what they call it assault. And so I felt it needed to be like an interview. Why are you here? Okay, we put a plan together to help you for your afflictions. Why are you here? We put a plan together to help you for your afflictions. But it wasn't. the leaders weren't former addicts or former victims or former abusers, so I felt that while it may have helped some, it didn't really do a tremendous amount of help. But the one thing it did do is it stopped me from acting out because I didn't want to have to go through that point again.
Okay. So when you said was it individualized, let's talk about why were you there? Can you remember the first time that you committed the act of domestic violence or domestic abuse?
No. I mean, I was
No.
in high school.
You were in high school. Okay, why were you there? Let's go back to some of the reasonings that you feel or felt that might have gotten you to that place that you became an abuser.
So, growing up in Southeast D.C., I hung with a certain demographic. These behaviors were taught to me by these people. So they would say, see, the problem you got with your girl is you don't slap her. And I would watch them do it, and so I would say, oh, okay. So next thing you know, maybe that's the problem. So I slap her, and she complied, to my surprise. And so it led to a process of this is how you control your female. It's kind of like, the Willie Lynch letter, he wrote to other slave masters, tell them how to, it's kind of like that. That was his letter to me to tell me how to control my females.
Okay, so you said a word, you said complied. She complied. I was listening to a sermon yesterday morning while walking, and she said something about the slow transition of power and how slowly our transition of power, how slowly our power can leave us without us realizing it. So you said she complied. So at what point do you think her power began to leave her? Because we talked earlier about how did you know who you could abuse or who was a candidate of becoming a victim of abuse. So let's talk about that transition of power. Because for me, I think about the forms. And one of the first forms I would say, and you can chime in on this, is maybe emotional or verbal. So if we allow the verbal to take place, we're losing a little bit of power. And then if we allow the emotional to start taking place, we're losing a little bit of power. And I say we because I am a victim of domestic violence. So I'm going to use the word we. What do you think about that? The transition?
That's pretty much an accurate statement because it's abuse escalates.
Mm-hmm.
So it always starts verbally. And if you let me get away with calling you names or talking down to you, eventually it's going to escalate because, some women fight back, some women don't. But eventually it still escalates. So now calling you out of your name doesn't move you. So I got to implement another form of abuse. Like I gave this example the other day on another segment where men are like Mr. Potato Head.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Potato Head got in his back all his things he needed to survive. Well, that's how men are. Once verbal abuse doesn't work, reach in his back, grab another abuse. Economic. And that's the one we roll with. Once that stops working, we reach in our back, we grab another one. Spiritual, physical, emotional. And we keep going until we've pretty much intertwined all the abuses together. And it's a hurricane, a tornado just waiting to go off.
Okay, so with whomever the first victim was, and just say the first form of abuse was verbal. If this person wouldn't have allowed the verbal to take place, would you have stayed with that person or would you have gone on to the next person?
The first person, that's hard to say. But what I can say is over time I developed a system. Well, not a system, but you could say a system for how I'm going to meet women, who I'm going to date and deal with, because I need to know that you're going to tolerate this behavior. Because if I'm checking you and you're not falling for the check, I ain't really got time for that. You're going to be obedient to me or you're going to get on.
Wow. Okay. So how do you choose this person? What is it about the way they look, the way they stand, is it their stance, the way they carry themselves, the way they sit? How do you know who this person may be?
Wow, that's difficult to answer because, again, it's been 24 years. But,
Right.
it was often women without dads in their life. Okay, women that don't have a strong male presence in their life. It was often women that may be lacking esteem in some area of their life. It may be, you may be heavy set, you may be not heavy set, but the main things were the esteem part and the male balance, or women who already have emotional problems in their home. Like I had one female say to me, as long as you don't treat me worse than my dad, we're okay. And dad was pretty brutal. So if you already have dysfunction in your life, then I bring dysfunction into your life, and you look at my dysfunction and your dysfunction, and you say, well, I guess this is how life is. And you accept dysfunction as a way of life.
Or it's not as bad as I've experienced, so I could tolerate this.
Right.
So you said a good word, self-esteem. And I know for myself as being a victim, and I can honestly say during that time, my self-esteem level was low. So I allowed the abuse to happen. And I would safely say a lot of women that do allow abuse to happen do suffer from forms of self-esteem. So what about the perpetrator? As a perpetrator, do they suffer from self-esteem as well, you think?
Oh, there was some self-esteem issues there, but it's a lot of ego.
Okay.
A lot of ego, because I can't let me be seen around my fellas being treated any kind of way by my lady. So you got to know. So while it might be some self-esteem issues there, it's a lot of ego-driven behavior. It's a lot of, it's another word for it. Like, I guess we just say ego-driven behavior. Like
Control?
It's a control, but that's part of your ego. Your ego tells you to control. That's a good question. That's all I got.
Okay. That's good. That's okay. Because I know when we talk about self-esteem and we talk about self-worth, there are a lot of women that have low self-esteem.
Self-worth.
But they go on to do great things. They could achieve these things. They can go to school, get the degrees, have the cars, have the homes, have the 9 to 5, make the 6 figures. But then the self-worth part comes in. That you don't feel worthy, even though you've achieved all these other things, but you still don't feel worthy of not being abused. Because I know I spoke at an event and a lady came up to me and she told me, I told my story, and she came up to me and she said, if I would have picked out 5 people in this room, I would have never thought you would have gone through all the things that you've gone through. And I thank God that I don't look like what I've been through, because I've gone through and he has delivered me from a lot. But getting back to the self-worth part, because a lot of people would say, well, how do you go through this? How do you allow this to happen? Why don't you just leave? And it's not that easy to leave. It's not that easy to leave. And we talked about earlier, it starts with the verbal, maybe the emotional. Would you consider this a form of grooming? Because I spoke with someone and they said that they didn't feel that it was grooming. I say it is. Because we're starting here. And like you say, it escalates, it builds. Do you consider abuse a form of grooming?
Definitely. A form of grooming, a form of coaching or inciting her to be the person you want her to be. That's why you start off in one area and you gradually increase. Mm-hmm. You escalate because you're grooming, you're molding, you're trending that behavior until it's time to bring in the next behavior, then you trend that behavior. So definitely it's a grooming thing. But the self-worth piece plays a role because think about going it, there was something in me that was self-worthless.
Ooh.
Because if I was in my right mind or felt value to myself, I wouldn't have to minimize you to make me feel big.
That's good. So not only is the victim feeling self-worthless, the perpetrator is as well.
Yeah.
So now you have two people that are basically feeling the same way about themselves.
And you got two people that probably came from broken or destructive homes, and they blended together, never saw a therapist or a counselor in life, but we can fix this on our own. But we find ourselves in a more dangerous situation than we came from. We find ourselves trying to fix, but we get frustrated with the fix, and then we act out.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your home. Did you experience domestic violence in your home?
No, but I experienced lack of male. So for me growing up, my dad wasn't around. I have 3 uncles who weren't available to provide male guidance. And so, the guys in the streets became my male mentors. And because they were the only males I had to listen to, I didn't have anybody I could say, well, this guy told me this, what should I do? Mm-hmm. I just listened to them.
Wow. Influences, negative influences.
Negative influences.
So how important is it for the influences in our lives when you think back to you as a child and how it molded you to become the person that you are? How important is that for someone that's watching now that maybe that single mom that don't have the right type of influences, or maybe that woman that are bringing certain type of males, or maybe a man that's bringing certain type of women around his, their kids. So how important are the influences that we allow our children to be involved with, or the environments that we allow our kids to be a part of?
Okay, let me say this, and let me look directly at the camera because I want them to understand where I'm coming from. If you're a single mother with male children, no males, no brothers, nobody to help, it is your obligation to put your male child in an organization that is going to help them. Boy Scouts of America, you get them a big brother. There are countless organizations that I can't think of off the top of my head, but there are organizations out here that help raise boys into men successfully. Get them a mentor. The same thing for women. If you have, like you said, men who are bringing bad female influences, it is your job to put your daughter in an environment that's going to help her thrive. While women say, I can raise a son. No, you can't. I'm a baby mama and a baby daddy. No, you're not. You're just a real good mama. You cannot raise a boy into a man. There's going to be something that's lacking in his life. It might not be visible on the outside, but eventually it's going to show up. And you're not going to know what to do because you're not a male.
Wow, that's good. So the first time, and I know it was a long time ago, so I commend you, 23 years?
24.
24, that's a long time. I commend
January
you.
1st, 2000.
Anniversary. You don't forget those dates, do you?
Well, what's funny is I always remembered it, and I was talking to somebody else, and she announced her quit date. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, you remember it. She said one thing they teach us is if you don't remember your quit date, you're going to have a second one.
You're going to have a second one. So as far as the relationships that you were in and the abuse that occurred, after the abuse happened, can you kind of take us on a journey of what some abusers, because I know you can't speak for all perpetrators, but what was it that you felt or what might have led up to an act? Because I know for myself, I could know when something was going to happen if my ex-boyfriend and we had gone out and we were drinking. And if he ordered tequila or Grand Marnier, which was a very sweet liqueur,
I know, right?
I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I'm supposed to sit a certain way, I'm supposed to look a certain way, and I'm supposed to act a certain way. Because if I deviated off from any of the things that he had expected of me during these times, it was going to be bad that night. And most of the time it would. And once he drank a certain amount, I would be able to look in his eyes, and I could just literally see the metamorphosis take place. And I knew this was going to happen. So did you know when it was going to occur, or could you feel something shift inside of you when you were getting ready to become active? I guess that would be the way to use it. I don't want to use the word violent, but when you were getting ready to act out.
So let's say we're on the train. And you conduct an activity I feel unworthy of being conducted. I might not act out on the train, but as soon as we got home, no sooner than I locked that door.
Well, would it be a look or a grab or?
It might not be anything.
Okay.
It might be, I want it to be a surprise.
Okay.
So no sooner than I lock that door, here come the expletives. But, it could be other things. Sometimes, because I couldn't get my drug. Like, I wasn't a drinker, but I was a drug user. So I couldn't have got my fix tonight. That's your fault. And I'm going to take it out on you. I might have got a bad batch. That's your fault. I wanted you to wear a dress, you wore a skirt. We going out with other couples, and you looking extra sexy. Why you looking extra sexy? You know other men going to be.
Or you're talking too much to the other couple's mate.
Yeah, And so sometimes it might have been a look. Sometimes it might have been a grab. There might have been a keyword that I said, and you knew, okay. But no matter what, they always came home that night because I'm not going to let you go. And, it could be in the grocery store. It could be in the mall. I've been in the mall and acted out and had other guys that jump in and want to help. And, one thing I've always been told is I'm different because most male abusers to a females won't fight other men. I was told I'm different because I'll fight a male and a guy. Excuse me. So if you want to jump in and help, you're causing a problem for yourself.
Oh, wow.
And at that, when I'm that age, I don't care about going and getting locked up. I'm going to do 3 days and I'm going to come home and look for you.
And look for you.
Look for you.
Okay, after the act had been committed, what were your thoughts afterwards?
Oh, that's when you go to honeymoon phase. I'm sorry. I don't know what made me do that. After the act had been committed and I went to sleep and woke up the next day, I would go in my living room and be like, ooh, did I do that? You don't know. Between 1990 and 2000, I probably bought 1,000 TVs because every 2 days I'm breaking one. I probably bought 1,000 bookcases. Because literally I was tearing up furniture every couple of days.
Did you black out?
I wouldn't say I blacked out.
So you actively knew what it was that you were doing?
So, yeah, I wouldn't say I blacked out, but I think the rage was so powerful that when I finished, I would just go to sleep. And you coming to lay down with me, and you know how you lay with a baby beside you, you put your arms in them, it would be one of those moves. And I got a grip so you can't get up. And the next morning when I wake up, I go in the living room and be like, dang, I did it again.
So were you sincerely sorry?
Probably not.
That's
because if you're seriously sorry about something, you don't do it again.
That was going to be my next question. Okay, that was going to be my next question. And that's good. So probably not, But you do this because you know that's what's needed to be done to keep the victim there. And we stay. Again, I say we because I stayed. What do you feel, or what did you feel about us after all this had been committed? What did you feel about us or feel about the victim once they stayed?
I got her. She ain't leaving this one. She ain't going nowhere. It gets no worse than this. I done broke up $3,000-$4,000 worth of furniture on her. I once, you know how in the apartment you have, it's a wall and then it's a closet. But if you go through that wall, you in the hallway. I once threw a cordless phone through the wall that came out the closet.
Wow.
You know, you could see the look on their face like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
He just threw that through 2 walls.
Mm-hmm.
I better not bother him. I better not try to go anywhere.
Right. Whew. So once they stay, or they stayed, where's the level of respect? Because, you know, in our minds, we think that if we stay, I'm going to say most people's minds, my mind was, if I stayed, this showed that I truly trusted him again, that this was going to be the last time. This showed that I loved him. He sees how much I love him, so he's going to not do it again. And he's going to respect me for staying and not leaving. Is that how it goes?
No.
Okay, so tell us how it goes.
There's no respect to this, honestly.
No respect.
I mean, if I respected you, I wouldn't put you through the process I put you through. If I cared about you, I wouldn't have did that. The only time I gave you hug and attention was during the honeymoon phase, which, man, lasted 2 days, 3 days. Good dinner. I'm sorry, let me go buy you an outfit and take you out. And
everything's good.
The Odyssey, you know the Odyssey, the dinner cruise in D.C.
Okay.
Let's jump on the Odyssey, have a nice dinner. Because some places you won't act up. And so that's kind of an upscale dinner cruise. You're not going to get on a upscale. You just dropped $150, $200. You're not going to act up there. But you'll act up when you get back home.
Right.
And see, that's the thing we got to know. Like, just because you see us in public smiling and happy, you can't say, oh, they're a lovely couple. They're a lovely couple right now.
Well, let's interject right quick. Let me interject. Because you see us happy. Persona, what we perceive to be as. So where you've been and where you've come from and where you are now, do you have the ability to look at some couples and to detect domestic abuse in that relationship?
I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with my wife. I remember we was at a mall in Georgia, and I was like, this not going to go good. And it was a couple intertwined, and I told her, I said, if you hit her, I'm not jumping in it, but I am going to call the police, and I'm not going to let them get away. But they separated. She went her way. But, you know, having been through my processes of treatment and healing, like, it's a lot of things I look at people, you know. I manage a restaurant. People come to my restaurant, and I tell the server they're on the first date. And I ask, how you know? They're on first date behavior. They leaning in toward each other. They're fully engaged. When me and my wife go out, we on our phones. We do talk while we're at the dinner table, but we're doing other stuff. We're not doing first date behavior.
Right.
You know, when you're a new couple, it's a table for 4. Both of y'all sit on the same side. It's new couple stuff, you know. But, I mean, it's a skill that you get from, so I was going to shoot a production. I was managing a pizza joint. I wasn't a manager. I was delivering for a pizza joint. And one of my managers said, hey, ask so-and-so. He went to school for that. He could be a good help you. And I said, okay, cool. He invited me to his house. He showed me his setup, introduced me to his lady. I was like, okay, cool. I might could work with you. The next day, he comes to the job with a female. Clearly, it's domestic violence written all over her face, bruises, scars, whatever. And I said to her, did he do this to you? Well, as soon as you get the well, like we in the Baptist church, you know something ain't right. And she said, he did, but don't go say nothing to him. I promise, I'm not going to say nothing to him. But I went to the other guy and I said, you know, I'm trying to shoot a domestic violence production. You put me in touch with a current abuser, like a yesterday abuser. Oh, I thought you could overlook that part of his life for your production. So once I do 13 shots and they find out this guy who's producing my show beat his girl up yesterday, you don't care how that's going to make me look?
And your credibility.
My credibility, I'm shot. I'm going to have to really go get a 9 to 5 now.
So when we talk about, again, you know, looking at others, because sometimes I watch, I'm a cosmetologist, and I see husbands come in the salon with their wives, and they sit in the salon for the entirety of their service. And I would always wonder, why do you feel you just have to stay here when you could go somewhere else? Or a look, or if you're talking, or the victim, you know, they're very boisterous, or they're laughing, or a gregarious type person, and once their mate comes around, they tense up. You know, their whole persona changes. Or when people go out on a date, and just say like the first or second dates, and the other person orders for you, it could seem to be a nice gesture, but where I'm at now, it's like, ask me what I want. You know, just don't assume, or at least say, is it okay if I order for you? Just don't take the liberty to order for me, because I can see that leading up as forms of control. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, and that's a strong truth. I'm going to control what you eat because you're fat, or you're not fat enough, so I'm going to feed you and make you fatter. You know, I'm going to control what you drink because you need to be more flesh rewarded. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a strong truth.
So when was your last time? What was it that led you to the point that you were sick and tired? Because you know, in NA, because I am too, and recovering addict, in NA, when you become sick and tired, when was your last time that you can remember that you were sick and tired of being that person?
Oh, I remember my last time very clearly. This was 99, and we had pagers. And I paged a young lady, but I put my wife at the time's number in the pager, and I'm thinking this is going to happen. Hey, somebody paged me? Nah, all right, bye. Well, some kind of way they got the conversing. And next thing I know, I hear a knock at my door. I look out the peephole. I see the wife at the time. Oh, so I open the door, and the other girl comes around the corner, and I slam the door. And she's in the hallway kicking and banging the door. I said, my neighbors are going to call the police. So I let her in the house. They tried to jump me. And believe it or not, I looked at this other girl. I looked at my first wife, and I said, I can't hit another woman in front of my wife. And so I jabbed the other girl. Then I called the police and say, these two crazy females in my house, could you come get them? And they took all three of us to jail.
Oh, wow.
They took all three of us to jail. And, you know, people know I'm laughing because I'm having a remembrance, but it's not funny. It's a pathetic story. But again, I'm not here. I'm not bragging. I'm not boasting. I'm not flossing. I'm not even getting jiggy with it. I'm here testifying, you know, things you need to be looking for in a situation that you're in, possibly before you get committed to the person.
Don't ignore the signs.
You know, but after that night, I came back home. I was like, you know what? I can't do this no more. And, you know, just like you, people look at me and say, you? You? You know, they made a joke one day at work about what happens if we get rich. One of the guys say, yeah, don't do like I did and smoke up dope. I was like, oh, my crack smoking day's over. They was like, you? Really? Yeah. I never would notice. You're not supposed to notice. It's not supposed to be on my forehead. I used to abuse women. I
The
used
goodness
to
of
smoke.
the Lord. The goodness of the Lord.
You're not supposed to know. But if you ask and you sincere in your conversation, oh, let's sit down, let's talk about it. But let's talk about it from an educational standpoint. We're not gonna talk about it so you just ridicule me and laugh at me because I'm not about to go for that.
So, do you consider yourself a savior? So, when we think about men,
Wow.
and that you may know men that are actively abusing or that are active abusers, do you feel it that is your obligation to intervene? Because I know you're an advocate against it, but what do you feel your obligation is with men? Because I wonder, and you've said this, when men are abusers, because we don't like being abused. And I would like to think that men don't like to abuse. I would somewhat like to think that somewhere inside of them, they're not feeling good about themselves for what it is that they're doing. How do you reach that person that's at that pivotal point, that crossroads that they're really tired, but they don't know what to do?
So I let it be known that I'm here. I give out my phone number, email address. I don't give out my home address because I have a family. I can't have you showing up with that drama.
Right.
But again, excuse me, I make it known that I'm here. Now, if I know you're an active abuser, I don't come knock on your door and say, hey, bro, I know you're abusing your woman. Let me help you. Because they're going to say, no, I'm not. Because they proud. I'm not. That's not going on in here. Ask her. And you ask her, no, we're fine. So that's not a good method. But if I'm called upon to help you, then I begin to implement a process that's committed to helping you. Because the next person has their own process. The next person has their own process. So you have to come to me and say, I need help. Now, if you're in a public street and I see it, yeah, I'm going to call. I'm going to call real quick. And I'm going to stay by, and you're going to know it was me that called, and I'm going to hand you my business card and say, when you get out, call me. I can help you. Most times they don't call, but I want somebody to know that you've been put on notice. It wasn't just no random person that saw you and called. I called. You've been put on notice. Get yourself together. Here go my card. I can help. But for me to just go and knock on people's doors, I don't think that'd be a good idea.
So why do you think most people don't get involved? Even people that know that this is happening.
Because we taught to mind our business. But it's okay to mind our business. But if it's you, I bet you want somebody to jump in.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're taught, that ain't your business. That's across the street. Let it stay across the street. What happens in your house stays in our house. Those kind of things were put into our heads. But, I realize that's foolishness. And so, yeah, it's my duty as an advocate to get involved and at least stop it while it's in front of me. I don't live in Rock Hill, so I can't be here all the time. But while I'm here, if I see it, I'm going to make it known that I see it. And it's going to be known that, the police on their way. And if I can film it or something to show, because the process has to start somewhere. And maybe me calling the police on this situation and him getting locked up here say that I don't want to, I don't, wow. He might not have never been arrested before. He might have been getting away with it all his life. And once he see the inside of a jail, it took me several insides of a jail to get fixed. But it might take him just one.
Right. And going back to that slow transition of power, the pastor also said that when we're in that position and we've given our power away, instead of asking God to give us our power back, we begin to pray for the situation to change. We're not praying for us to change, that we can be strong enough to do whatever it is that we need to do for that situation. We pray for the situation. And I know myself, my prayer was a lot of times, well, Lord, just allow him to stop doing this. Allow him to stop. I can't ever remember praying, God, give me the strength to walk away. Because I just wanted him to be better. I just wanted it to be better. So a lot of times our prayers are geared toward the wrong things. It's geared toward things that aren't good for us, things that aren't healthy for us, and sometimes things that will never be good, will never be healthy, instead of us praying for us to be good and for us to be healthy.
So you saying, essentially, we pray for our abuser. We pray opposite of what we should be praying.
Instead of for ourselves to get better, to be able to walk away. But I can never just, and maybe towards the end, I said, Lord, give me the strength to walk away. But most of my prayer was, Lord, just let him change. Let him get better. Let this be the last time.
My prayer might have been, Lord, don't let me kill this chick because I can't do life in prison.
Wow.
But, I don't know. See, during that time, I wasn't heavy in prayer.
Right.
Like, I wasn't going to church and then going home. But ironically, I wrote a message about a young lady who is a victim. Mm-hmm. And when she calls the helpline, they say, okay, we'll come lock him up and we'll help you. And she says, I don't want him locked up. I want him fixed. And so that's when it becomes my job to step in and say, let me help you too. Mm-hmm. But in order for me to help you too, separation has to occur first. And then you get yourself right, she gets herself right. Because of the message, she says, he's a real good father to our kids. He's a real good provider to our family. But he's abusive. And that's what I don't like about him. So I separate them. I coach both of them. And then I implement them back together slowly. Because behaviors change when we're apart. But once we come back together, I realize, oh, you used to do that. I forgot about that.
So do you think marriages and relationships can survive this?
Oh, sure. If both people wanted to survive, it will.
Okay.
But most of the times, it's not advisable to survive it. They feel like relapse may occur. I've been clean 24 years. I haven't relapsed one time. I haven't lashed out. I haven't, relapsed, period. So, but it's possible to survive it because, it's a marriage. you want to make it sustainable. You don't want to get divorced and get with somebody else and relearn a new person and start over fresh. You want to build on what you have. So it's possible if the right treatment is implemented, counseling, coaching, anger management, hypnosis, whatever the case may be for yourself.
Okay, so with you saying all that, I want you to make it clear what it is that you're saying to people that are in an abusive relationship. Are you telling them to stay, or are you telling them that they need to, if they do decide to stay, both of them need to put the work in to do all of the things that you just said?
I'm saying the second thing. If you're going to stay, put the work in. But I'm also saying if you're going to stay, it's best to separate for a time period so you can work on your issues, she can work on her issues. And once you're both issue free, you come back together, because it's not only my issues, her issues, there are issues.
Our issues as well, yes.
So you can only fix our issues when we're together. But before I can fix our issues, I got to fix my issues.
Okay. So it's been 23 years. 24 from the abuse and the drugs.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about freedom. This morning at church, they sang the song, "Praise the Lord, I'm free. No more chains holding me down. I'm not bound anymore." Do you consider yourself free?
You know, I've never really thought about it, but I guess in a sense I am free. I'm free to help other people to become free.
Mm-hmm. Because I think about freedom for me, I'm not being abused, so I'm free. I'm not in active addiction anymore. God has freed me from that. Now, there are other things that God is working on me with. But for those two things, I'm free. And I think those are two major things. And I do thank God for freeing me for that, those things, because if you weren't free, I don't think you would be sitting here doing this.
Oh, you're right. But freedom, so I'm free from the afflictions. Mm-hmm. But again, I believe I'm free as a way to help other people be free. Mm-hmm. I don't want to call myself the Harriet Tubman of domestic violence, but sort of down that road. Mm-hmm. You know, now my job is to help you. My job is to help others get to the point to where I'm at in my life. I'm to be free from addiction, to be free from violence, to be free from anger. You know, it takes a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, like, I've been married 6 years. We have a daughter together. It takes a lot not to get upset. Like, I don't have desires to act out, but that doesn't mean that we're issue free.
Right. So with your relationship now, and I remember I asked you the last time, how do you know that that you've been reformed or that you are an ex-abuser? And you said that because when your wife may say something, you don't curse her out, or you've never hit her. When you met her and you told her about your past, was she receptive of it? Or was there did she feel any type of resistance, or she trusted you totally to be the man that you said that you were at that time?
Well, when we met, I didn't tell right away.
Okay.
Because that was the thing that I was doing. So I meet you, I say, hey, before we get to know each other, I'm reformed from this, and this, and this. I used to do this, and this, and this. Okay, you still want to talk? And so now I realize I got people that's interested, but they sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So I learned that you have to implement that in phases. So when we met, like on our second meeting, I talked about how I used to work in broadcasting. Mm-hmm. I played something from my phone so she could hear how I did in broadcasting. Mm-hmm. And then one day I said, okay, so I got a segment. And she was like, oh, can I listen? What's it about? Domestic violence. Yeah, you can listen. Like, I couldn't say no. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you can listen. And she listened. But by that time, she has seen me now as the person who I am now. It's been 24 years, so now maybe 18 years in. And so it's like, okay, so let's talk about it. But I don't think she ever worried about me hitting her with a vase or pushing her in front of a lawnmower. I don't think she ever had those worries. But remember, in the beginning, I said I had a system for how I picked the women I dated.
Right.
Now, let me be clear on something, and I say this a lot. I did not, when we started dating, I met a lot, she got a lot of nephews. She got cousins. So I don't date her because she got people that'll murder me if I do wrong. But it just so happens the woman that I choose to fall in love with got male backup. And I don't know if they know about this or not. I've never told them. She might have told them. Funny story, though, she does have a friend who some kind of way got wind of my past. And he called my wife trying to save my wife from me. But he thought it was current stuff.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know what he listening to. But, you know, like in the past, she wouldn't have been somebody I chose because she had 40 nephews, 20 cousins. Her dad was around. I'd have been, and, you know, I remember she told me one day this guy did something, and I told my nephew, just go talk to him. Well, this dude ended up in ICU.
Oh, wow.
All right, so, and I don't remember what the dude did, but I'm sure whatever he did, I was worse.
Right.
Okay.
So you would have been worse.
So, yeah. So, you know, I'd have been from
It would have been worse
somewhere.
for you, right?
But again, I didn't pick her because she has that backup. It just so happens that's in place.
Wow. Okay. So, miracles. There's a song by Elevations in Maverick Music City. Miracles on miracles, tiny little miracles. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even count them all. Miracles on miracles. I consider myself a miracle.
I've never really thought about whether I'm a miracle or not. I mean, and thinking about it, I guess, like I said, it's a miracle that I made it out. It's a miracle that I'm not doing life in Sing Walla Walla. You know, those things here, it's a miracle. I don't consider myself a miracle worker. I consider myself just a helper. Like, you know, again, it's my duty to help the people that need help. So, like, you know, I don't want people to think I walk on water. I don't. But I'm here for a purpose.
And the reason I say I consider myself a miracle is because 1 in 3 women are abused. And every 20 seconds, a woman is being abused. That's not me today. I consider that a miracle. Most people that have sustained drug addiction don't make it out.
Yeah.
I have 32 years clean. I consider that a miracle. I think it's a miracle that I'm here with you, that we could talk about the things that we've been through and that we're not experiencing it today, that we could help someone else come out of that. I think that's a miracle.
It is.
Okay. And okay, so I am glad. So we're going to end this with tell us 3 things. Tell us 3 things that describes you today. 3 words, 3 things, 3 adjectives that describes Christopher Barnes today.
Committed to change. Committed to changing abusers into non-abusers. Overcome. And I would say accomplished.
Accomplished. That's good. So is there anything else that you want to say before we close?
No, just that, you know, if you're listening to this and you're in a situation, take heed to what we're saying and, you know, call us, look us up. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, you know, reach out to us.
Give us your social media platforms.
So my Instagram is Mr_Change_Agent. My Facebook is, you go to facebook.com/billionaire. That's BRILLIANTAIRE. Billionaire. Just reach out. If it's not to me, if it's not to Gail, reach out to somebody that can help. Because we're not the only two out here. There's plenty of people out here that can help. And you choose the help that works best for you. Don't choose the help that's easiest for you, but the one that works best for you. Because if you come to me, I'm not going to make it easy for you, but I will make it possible for you.
Good. And again, I want to say thank you. And I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today. And you can follow me on Gail Estella on Facebook, Gail Estella Speaks on Instagram. And stay tuned for May the 19th.